with the scent of potpourri, films we commit to memory. Crossing the felt ropes, watching from home on my TV, looking at all my eyes can see. They tell me I view obsessively.
Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer, a weekly podcast reviewing 2 new or recent release titles every episode with an occasional free-for-all segment at the end that we call Potpourri. I'm your host, Matt Hurt, and you can find more of my work, including my written reviews, full episode show notes, and the complete backlog of our episodes and spinoff podcasts at obsessiveviewer.com. You can also follow me on Letterboxd and other social media platforms at the username of Obsessive Viewer. And if you'd like to support us and get access to hundreds of exclusive episodes, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Recently on Patreon, last night just went to the AMC Screen Unseen, last night as of this recording, Screen Unseen, and did an immediate reaction review of the movie that was in that Screen Unseen, which was Drop, the new Christopher Landon movie. So that is up on Patreon. And I also have Severance episode reviews, other immediate reaction recordings, and a bunch of stuff. I'm planning on doing some Black Mirror stuff this week. And eventually I'll be doing like season reviews, I think, of Yellow Jackets, or as I've been affectionately calling it in my head, Yellow Jorkets. And then I will also have more book stuff eventually. So all of that's at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. You can sign up there at any of our tier levels for all of that and a bunch more content. And if you want to support me without messing around with Patreon, you can always buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/obsessiveviewer. This week on the show, we're back to the Thursday releases. We'll be reviewing the new Samir Oliveros movie, The Luckiest Man in America, in this week's secondary review. But before that, we're going to go over some movie news and Indianapolis screenings before reviewing the new war film from Alex Garland and first-time filmmaker and longtime Iraq War veteran Ray Mendoza. The movie Warfare in this week's feature review. And joining me once again for this episode is my friend and IFJ colleague whose work can be found at MidwestFilmJournal.com, including reviews of both of these movies. And he can be followed on Letterboxd at the handle of Sam Movie Man, making his 4th of a contractually obligated 25 appearances this year on the Obsessive Viewer podcast. It's Sam Watermeier. Welcome back to the show, Sam. How's it going this evening?
Thanks, man. It's going well. I think we agreed on 20 appearances.
20, that's right. Okay.
So don't stress me out. Not that this show is stressful at all. It's always a pleasure. Happy to be here, and to hell with it. I'll do 25.
Nice.
I'll do 30. However many before you get sick of me.
Nice. I will hold you to that. Like, honestly, like, I know that I have planned out like a weekly episode throughout the year, and hopefully now that we're getting into the movie season where like good movies are, like multiple good movies are out, I'm hoping that maybe I can do some Patreon episodes that kind of similar to what I did with Carry On and whatever the snowman was, Hot Frosty last year. Kind of free bonus episodes on Patreon. But anyway, all that's to say, I don't know if I have 30 episodes in me. So who knows what'll happen. But I admire your tenacity and willingness to have me talk at you for a considerable amount of time.
Of course, man.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. And also a pleasure is reading your written reviews, which I mentioned that you reviewed The Luckiest Man in America and Warfare over on Midwest Film Journal. You also have recent reviews of Michael Shannon's directorial debut, Eric LaRue, and a review of The Penguin Lessons, which I don't know anything about. So how's it been going with your reviews over at Midwest Film Journal? And how are you feeling about that?
Good. I'm starting to get busier over there.
Nice.
I just posted my review of Warfare, and tomorrow I'll have my contribution to the Robert Downey Jr. series we're doing, Deep Downey. I will, of course, be covering a 90s Downey classic, U.S. Marshals.
That's right. Okay.
That was kind of like right in the middle of his sort of dark period with being in and out of rehab and prison, and it was kind of ironic to see him play a law enforcement character during that time. So I sort of explore some of that, as well as the fact that that was kind of his first like action franchise movie.
Yeah.
And now he's kind of known for being an action franchise guy. So I have that going on. I've been getting cool screening opportunities. Like you mentioned, I saw Michael Shannon's directorial debut, which actually isn't in Indiana yet. It'll be on streaming or digital this week. But that's kind of slowly rolling out to theaters across the country. And that movie premiered, I think, at the Tribeca Film Festival back in like 2023.
Oh, wow.
And I honestly didn't think it would ever get released on a wider scale than that. I felt like I would never see that movie, and I was so thrilled to finally get a chance to see it.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm busy, and I'm looking forward to, like you said, some good movies coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. I just discreetly looked up Eric LaRue, which I hadn't really heard much about or anything, but man, yeah, it sounds really good. The cast is really good too. Judy Greer, Paul Sparks, Alexander Skarsgård, Alison Pill. Like, there's a really good cast in this.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's very strange. It's kind of on the surface seems kind of similar to the movie Mass in terms of revolving around parents and how they've been impacted by a school shooting. But it's like darkly funny and it kind of has like a Todd Solondz vibe, which may scare some people away.
Yeah.
In terms of just like being kind of uncomfortably funny and sort of accentuating the awkwardness of very serious topics. The main character, who's actually not Eric LaRue, but his mother, it follows her as she deals with people in the aftermath of this shooting that her son did, and she has to interact with these people who are kind of tone deaf and kind of pushing her into religion and
interesting.
So it kind of finds some dark humor in that. And it's a very odd but really bold and admirable movie. I liked it a lot.
Nice. I'm definitely going to have to check that out. Of course, Mass was my number one movie of 2021. So I'm primed for them. Like, I don't know. I feel like I also really liked We Need to Talk About Kevin. So maybe there's something fucked up with me. And Elephant.
I'm kind of fascinated by school shootings just as a topic, and kind of how it's a tricky subject to portray cinematically. And I think with Mass, I think that was kind of finally like the perfect exploration of that topic. But yeah, there have been some interesting movies about that subject.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, I didn't put it together until just now that this is just like, I don't know, this is not necessarily a deep cut, but like, this is like Eric LaRue is Michael Shannon's directorial debut. And it's funny that Paul Sparks is in it because Paul Sparks, he worked with him on Boardwalk Empire. So nice.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
I was just thinking about Boardwalk Empire today. Yeah, Michael Shannon is fantastic. And so is Paul Sparks. Everyone. That's a good show for 4 of the 5 seasons. But yeah. How about the Penguin lessons? Anything you want to say about that? Like, I don't know what it is.
Oh yeah. That's based on a true story of a professor who kind of got stuck with this penguin in the midst of, I don't want to get this wrong, so let me go back and look.
I would say in the midst of maybe a divided Argentina in 1976.
Yes, there you go.
Would you
Perfect.
say that he's a disillusioned Englishman as well?
Yes, I would.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so thanks for the assist on that.
Of course.
Steve Coogan, and that's kind of a perfect role for him. That's actually, there's kind of a funny backstory about that review that I feel kind of weird about now. So it's funny because in my review, I spend a pretty considerable amount of time calling out another critic, Matt Zoller Sites.
Oh, interesting.
And he wrote kind of a cynical take on the movie. And I sort of, I don't think I'm like mean by any means, but I kind of take him to task in my review. And it's very funny that I did that. I kind of have egg on my face now because a few days after that review posted, he shared my fellow Midwest Film Journal writer Evan Dossey's great essay on the proposition.
Oh, okay.
So Matt Zoller Sites gave a really cool endorsement of that and said,
Wow.
check out this great essay and this great website. And it left me feeling like quite a dick.
Oh God.
That, I kind of took him to task in this review. And I mean, who knows whether he read this. But I mean, I respect him as a critic. I have nothing against him. It was just this one review in particular, that I kind of took issue with. I have great respect for him, and I think it's awesome that he endorsed the website. It just kind of leaves me in a funny looking position now,
right? Little did he know that he was on the precipice of a major war between Midwest Film Journal and RogerEbert.com.
Right.
So,
but I mean, it's just kind of funny. I mean, again, like who knows whether he actually read my review, but I'm glad he supports the site nonetheless.
Yes, that is awesome. That is an awesome not get, but that's a good kind of big dog kind of pointing to the little regional critics, I guess. I don't know.
Oh yeah, very cool. And definitely check out Evan's Guy Pearce essay series, which is great.
Yes.
So little backstory on that. Nice.
Well, that is out in theaters, maybe still. I'm not sure, but it's the Penguin Lessons. You heard it here first. Midwest Film Journal said, "Fuck Matt Zoller Sites."
No.
Go see the... I'm sorry. Sam Watermeier on behalf of MidwestFilmJournal.com. And also look out for his review of The Amateur coming out next week, where he will have a lot of things to say about Rami Malek. But speaking of putting your foot in your mouth, I guess, we are like, there's no way to transition over to this. So speaking of putting your foot in your mouth, why don't you put your money where your mouth is and go see some movies in Indy this week? Here's what's playing in Indy in the coming week. If you wouldn't mind indulging me, Sam, on this odyssey through some kind of odd things going on in Indianapolis in the next week or two. So, yeah, awesome. Okay, so over at the Alamo Drafthouse, this weekend they are screening on the 12th. They are screening Dazed and Confused, which is one of my favorite movies. I will hopefully maybe go to it. On Sunday, they're showing Creed, and on the 15th, which is Tuesday, they're showing Across the Universe in a movie party screening that they have. And then the next day on Wednesday, they're showing Selena. And then next weekend, the 19th, they're showing the Pride and Prejudice 20th anniversary movie party of that film. That's at Alamo Drafthouse. And I believe that this week is one of their bye weeks, if I can borrow a sports phrase, for the movie trivia, but it will presumably be back next weekend on April 20th on Sunday. Or maybe not, because that's Easter. So we'll see. But yeah, so it's alternating Sundays. They have movie trivia hosted by our friend and colleague, Lou Harry. So that's at Alamo Drafthouse. Link in the show notes to that theater. Moving on, at the Can Theater on April 13th, which is this coming Sunday, they're having a book to film club screening of Arrival that is presented with on behalf of Tomorrow Bookstore and Indy Reads. That is at on April 13th. And then on the 15th, on Tuesday, they're showing David Cronenberg's Crash. And then on the 17th, they're going to be having a part of their Bricks and Flicks series. It's going to be I guess a 90-minute collection of Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum historical footage with Jason Van Sickle and Jake Query. That is at the Can. Link to that theater is in the show notes. And then moving right along, do you have any comments on either of those, by the way? I know I'm kind of rattling them off.
Oh, no, I just, I've actually never seen David Cronenberg's Crash.
Interesting, me neither.
So I'd love to catch it there. It's cool that they're showing that.
Yeah. And
just, I feel ancient in the fact that Pride and Prejudice is now 20 years old.
Yeah. Yep. It's wild. It's wild.
I came out my freshman year of high school, I think.
Oh God. Jeez, that would have been 20. That would have been my senior year of high school. So, yeah. Then moving on to the Living Room Theater. I'm not connected to Living Room. I'm in my living room right now, so there's a connection there. But this weekend they're showing Step Brothers, and then on the 18th they're having a screening and a Q&A of the documentary Band Together. It is a powerful evening of conversation and community at the special screening of Band Together, a compelling documentary exploring the rise of book bands and the fight for intellectual freedom. And there's going to be a panel Q&A featuring leaders dedicated to combating censorship in Indianapolis. And Loudmouth Books will be partnering with them in having a table and selling banned books on that. So again, that's April 18th, which is not this Friday, but next Friday. So check that out at Living Room Theaters. And then I have a couple more. Keystone Art this next week, on April 15th on Tuesday, they're continuing their David Lynch filmmaker focus series with Blue Velvet on the 15th, with 2 screenings on Tuesday, of course. And then they also announced their May Retro Replay series. It's going to be focused on the work of Meryl Streep. So throughout May, on Tuesdays, they're going to be having Out of Africa, Death Becomes Her, Mamma Mia, and Julie and Julia. Sam, any thoughts on those?
I love Death Becomes Her.
Mm-hmm.
That was a childhood favorite of mine.
Nice.
I haven't seen Out of Africa or Mamma Mia. Julie and Julia is fine.
Okay. Nice. So speaking on behalf of Sam, I would say you would pick Death Becomes Her for people to go see.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool special effects in that one. Kind of ahead of their time.
Oh, absolutely. I watched it for the first time like maybe 5 years ago. Really, really good. Very, very wacky, I guess. It's campy. It's pretty campy. I liked it a lot. So, so rounding out the what's playing in Indy, Flix Brewhouse on. Here's the thing. This is weird. So, I'll start with the one that makes the most sense. On April 20th, they're going to be screening Dazed and Confused.
420 blazing.
Yeah, right. Totally makes sense.
Hey, you got a joint, man.
Be a lot cooler if you did. Here's the weird thing. Also, on April 19th and 20th, they're showing Shrek. So that's cool.
Okay.
And they're having... I'll read this from the site. They're having Shrek at night. So it's... Send your 420 weekend into Ogre Drive at our late night screening of Shrek. Enjoy high times at a low cost. All tickets are $4.20. Admission includes entry into a Shrek-tastic giveaway.
That's quite a stretch.
It's weird.
I mean, I know someone who would be thrilled about that.
Sure.
Someone who both loves Shrek and is kind of a pothead.
Okay. Yeah. It's just weird. Like, it's weird that they're centering like 420. Like, because I assume that Dazed and Confused isn't going to be. Maybe that's on sale for $4.20 also. But like, it's just weird that they have Dazed and Confused on 420, and they're having a 420 themed screening of Shrek. So
that is really. Is it a nighttime screening only, or?
Yeah, so those are the late screenings for Shrek. So on the 19th, I believe it's at 9:00, and on the 20th, it's at 7:00, I believe. So that makes a little bit more sense.
It's still pretty odd though, because it's largely a kids movie.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Huh.
And I'm checking. Dazed and Confused is, I don't know. It's asking me to sign in, so I can't see the actual price of the ticket. But yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. It's weird. But Dazed and Confused on April 20th is at 6:30 p.m. So I don't know. Go see that, and then Shrek is at 7. So pick your poison. But that's what's going on in Indy this week and next week, really, as well. Links to all of these theaters are in the show notes of this episode. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't say that Indie Film Fest is coming up. They're going to be screening April 23rd to the 27th at Can and Living Room Theaters, with online screenings continuing through May 4th. Check that out at indiefilmfest.org. So that's what's playing around Indy. Before we get to our feature review, Sam, do you want to knock down a couple of these news items that I have hastily put together in the run-up to recording?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, so we've got news before the reviews. The first piece of news that I have before the reviews is just a quick thing. Like, Jenna Ortega gave an interview where she explained why she dropped out of Scream 7. It was reported at the time that her schedule conflicted with, that the shooting schedule of Scream 7 conflicted with her shooting schedule of Wednesday Season 2. That's not the case. She said that it was all kind of falling apart, and so she decided to jump ship because it was like the directors, radio silence were not coming back to it. And when Melissa Barrera was fired, she just realized like, I can't, like if the people, I believe she's quoted as saying something like, if the directors and the people that I fell in love with working on this franchise aren't coming back, I'm not going to either. So got a lot of respect for her for doing that, because I mean, granted, she is one of the most like sought after young like actresses working today. But like, I mean, this is like an established franchise that she is a star of. Like it's amazing. Like it's commendable that she's, you know, willing to just like put it like you know, do this for herself, like not return to it for those reasons instead of what would be, you know, potentially an easy paycheck or a good payday, basically. What are your thoughts on this, Sam?
Yeah, I agree that it's admirable. It also explains the crazy casting that's been going on.
Yeah.
With Scream 7, it's like everybody's back. Like
yes.
You know, so and so gets a part, and so and so gets a part, and you get a car, and you get a car. Like I now wonder if that was done to kind of cover for the loss of Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega.
Yeah, I think that is at least partially why they're going whatever route they're going. I still don't know what the hell to expect from this, but these casting announcements are crazy. So yeah, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this movie. I'm excited for it. But we'll see what happens. Yeah. So, link to that is in the show notes of this episode. And then the other piece of news that I have is something that I like. This was reported like a couple of weeks ago. It's not like a huge deal or anything, but the headline is Fox gives huge 4-season pickups to The Simpsons, Family Guy, and Bob's Burgers. And the reason I want to kind of highlight this is that The Simpsons, that's going to put it to like season 40, I think. And like, I'm at the point where like, I don't watch the new seasons or anything, but I don't know. It's a weird thing. Like, it just feels like I was a huge fan of the classic years of The Simpsons. That is one of my comfort shows. It is brilliant. It's amazing. I love it. But like, just the fact that now 35 to 40 years after those episodes aired, the same actors, the same voice actors are doing those voices. It just feels like at a certain point, it's like, just let them rest, man. Let them retire. I can't, I don't know. What, are you a Simpsons fan, Sam?
Honestly, not beyond the classic Simpsons. I mean, sure. I wouldn't even say I've gotten as far as into the teen seasons.
That is when it drops off.
Yeah. And like, I watched the Mark Maron episode of The Simpsons, which was a more recent one.
Sure.
You know, because I love Mark Maron and I loved the idea of him as a podcaster, as a comedy podcaster, interviewing Krusty the Clown. Like, that was great. But I just have no interest in getting through, like, you know, dozens of seasons at this point. And I agree, like, gosh, how old is Dan Castellaneta now?
Yeah.
Like, he's an old man.
Oh, yeah.
It must be.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, they're well into their 60s, I believe. Like, it's, and here's the thing.
At a certain point, they're going to sound old.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, Julie Kavner, that she does the voice of Marge. There was a lot of people like online talking about how like that voice has to just be destroying like her like everyday speech patterns. Like the strain that puts on her has to be just like insane. And it's insane that it's like it's going on 40 years for this to happen. She's 74 years old. Like
apparently, like, I mean, that's like elderly almost.
Yeah. Like, here's the thing. I'm all for people working as long as they want to and everything. And I'm not saying that these actors are being held hostage or anything, but I'll go on my soapbox and say that the only people in their 70s who should be working are presidents of the United States, apparently. So I'm sorry, I can't. But yeah, no, it's really weird. I don't like, it just seems, and maybe it's because I'm just so out of the loop in terms of like the Simpsons fandom or anything. Cause like, I'm sure that it's still like, it's at this point, it's an institution of television, but like if you put a gun to my head, I could not name anyone who I know of who watches The Simpsons week to week. Like it's not, it doesn't feel, and maybe it's just me and my bubble of like my millennial, like first dozen seasons of The Simpsons are great and everything else is trash bubble. But like, is anyone watching The Simpsons? Does anyone enjoy The Simpsons, or are we watching like elder abuse of these voice actors being forced to do this work for much less viewers than there were in the 90s?
Right. Like, is it still on just because it's always been on? Like, I mean, obviously there must be some appeal to it.
Yeah.
Like, obviously someone's watching. And I do like the fact that, as far as I know, they're not aging the characters. I think that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think there's something to be said for like gracefully giving it up.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I just quickly Googled like Simpsons viewership over the years, and it's like it's very much a downward trajectory.
Well, and when it's been on so long, like, will a series finale even mean anything anymore?
Right?
Like several fans have stopped watching for decades now.
Yeah. Like whenever they do end, I will watch it just because it'll be a kind of cultural thing, but like it's weird. It's going to be weird. It's going to be like, it's not my Simpsons. Like, yeah. The rating share for like for perspective, oh, Jesus Christ. So like, season 32, which was 2020 to 2021, the rating share between the ages of 18 and 49, was like 0.5, 0.7, 1.5, 1.3, like in the, like 0. Like the last like half of the season were like between 0.3 and 0.7. I don't know what metrics that is, but basically viewership by the millions. Okay, this is a better way to gauge it. So like they were getting like 1 million views, 1.5 million views consistently throughout season 32, which is in 2020, with a bump in a Christmas episode and the Treehouse of Horror, which I believe is pretty much a good bet that they'll get good viewers for that. But like that was even like 4.9 million viewers. And then contrast that with viewership in the early years. That okay, it doesn't have the actual millions. But like those like 0.4, 0.3 shares, like back in the early 90s, they were getting like 12.5 shares. Like they were, it was a considerable amount. Like season 5 had one episode, had 20 million viewers. So it's like, it's just very, very different. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no interest in like, I mean, let's say I stopped at like season 12, like I just have no interest in catching up with that many seasons.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like I've often thought about this in a weird hypothetical thing. So like, and yeah, okay, the rating share throughout the years is on a downward trajectory since season 14 in 2002. Like every season after that, with like one small, very minor exception, has been like less viewers per season than the previous season. Like it's every single season is a downgrade from the previous season in terms of viewers. But yeah, I have this hypothetical sometimes where like I think, and then we can like, I can posit this to you. This would have been more for like a Patreon thing, but I'll posit this to you and then we can get into our reviews. But also the funny thing is like, just imagine like pouring like your voice into like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of content with dwindling viewers or listeners. So check out patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and review and rate the show on Apple Podcasts. But anyway, I have posited this, or I have thought about this like hypothetical frequently, but basically if like it's the old like Desert Island TV show, like what would you pick as your Desert Island TV show that you would want to have on the desert island, and it would be basically the only thing that you had to watch? And the spin that I have on it, or the thought that I have on it, is like if I'm there for like eternity or whatever, or until I finally just die, my thought is I want something that is the maximum amount of content. So like I could see like, oh yeah, I would have The Simpsons, because I would have those 12 or 13 seasons of just pure gold. And then when those get worn out, I can just go through the other 25 seasons or however many there will be, and just like that can be my mind palace. I can live in Springfield instead of this deserted island with nothing.
That's probably the best case I've ever heard for The Simpsons being on as long as it has.
Nice.
That's amazing. Yeah. There's just so much of it.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And like a considerable amount would be like comfort food.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you'd have a lot to live on.
Oh yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. What would your Desert Island show be that you would either have for just like amount, or just what would you watch endlessly?
Probably Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, nice. Okay.
If I'm being honest, like,
nice.
I can kind of watch it casually, but I can also like really get into it and get just as anxious as it made me the first time watching it. So, and I find the anxiety of that show kind of comforting in an odd way. So yeah, I'd probably go with that.
Nice. So just to recap for the listeners, Sam has volleyed a first strike against RogerEbert.com and Matt Zoller sites, and now he's doing that to who I believed that you were like you loved, but you just lobbed it at Mark Maron, and by not picking his show Maron.
Well, I have a reason for that.
Okay.
In my defense, there's only been 4 seasons of his IFC sitcom Maron.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. Well,
yeah, so I'm not like burning bridges over here.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you're not burning bridges, but my other question was, if you could have one single podcast on a desert island that would have you would have access to the entire catalog of a podcast, what podcast would it be, Sam?
Well, Maron's, obviously.
God damn it. WTF.
I realized what I was supposed to say, and I let you down.
Well, thank you for joining me. This has been a great episode of the Obsessive Viewer podcast. Join me next week for... Okay, well, shall we go into our featured review of a movie that I would dare say would not be either of our Desert Island movies? I would certainly hope not. Do you want to go into our review of Warfare?
Yes, absolutely.
Nice. All right. So that is it for news before the reviews. Links in the show notes. Those show notes, of course, are also at obsessiveviewer.com/OV474. So the featured review this week on the podcast is for Warfare. Of course, we're going to do a non-spoiler review and then spoiler review. I'll play a clip from the trailer when we switch over to spoilers, but if you want to check the show notes for timestamps to skip around the spoiler section, feel free to do that on your app of choice, whatever you're listening to this on, or in the description of the YouTube video. So Warfare is releasing in theaters this week on April 11th. In theaters, the premise, according to IMDb, is a platoon of Navy SEALs embark on a dangerous mission in Ramadi, Iraq, with the chaos and brotherhood of war retold through their memories of the event. The movie was written and directed by Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza. This is the directorial debut of Ray Mendoza, who is an Iraq war veteran. And of course, Alex Garland is the filmmaker of last year's, was it last year? Yeah. Civil War and some of my favorite movies of all time. And the writer of the upcoming 28 years later that I still can't believe is actually happening, and I'm so excited. So the cast includes, I'm going to rattle these off really quickly: Joseph Quinn, DeFaro Wunatai, Cosmo Jarvis, Evan Holtzman, Michael Gandolfini, Joe McCauley, Henrik Zaga, Will Poulter, and Noah Centineo. So Sam, we got to see a screening of this together at the Shiloh Theater. I also posted an immediate reaction on Patreon of that a couple of weeks ago, and you reviewed it on Midwest Film Journal. So do you want to get us kicked off with your thoughts and non-spoilers on Warfare and what your expectations were going into it as well?
Yeah, sure. Alex Garland's previous movie, Civil War, came out around this same time last year. And this is an interesting follow-up in the sense that Civil War is kind of a dystopian vision of a divided America, obviously not unlike our own. And I remember seeing that movie, and the images of America as a battleground were very familiar in the wake of the insurrection at the Capitol building. So Civil War felt like kind of timely and prophetic. So to see him jump back to the Iraq War in 2006 was kind of jarring. And I remember after our screening, one of our fellow critics and IFJA members said they were surprised the movie didn't make some sort of grand statement about the Iraq War. And I would argue that it sort of does. It certainly presents the Iraq War as an unjust war, and as a conflict we shouldn't have started or prolonged. But I think this movie really isn't trying to make you think about war. I think it's trying to make you feel what war is like, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think in that sense, it's hugely successful. I haven't seen a war movie quite like this before. It thrusts you into the middle of a mission. And the mission, in terms of its scale in comparison to the rest of the war, is very small. And I don't want to give too much of it away, but it's sort of a surveillance mission that turns into a rescue mission, and it never feels like larger than life or particularly cinematic or heroic in a way that, say, Saving Private Ryan is. It really feels like more of a nightmare. The whole movie has this kind of surreal sense of dread that has stayed with me since we saw it 2 weeks ago. And for me, it's the first movie of the year that I really haven't stopped thinking about or stopped kind of feeling in my bones. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I could kind of start rambling here, so I'm gonna leave it there for now and see what you thought of it.
Yeah, you're totally good. So here's the thing. I agree completely. This was, I'm not as hot on it. It hasn't stayed with me quite as much as it stayed with you. But not for any reason that's kind of a mark against the movie itself. What it does and what it achieves and what it sets out to achieve is done really spectacularly well. And the kind of central conceit of it being all about memory and basically being this kind of real time over the shoulder view of this one specific incident with this one specific team in this one specific location. It says so much about the greater experience, and there are little bits and pieces that are thrown in that are kind of some sort of subtle not jabs at the politics of the time or the morality of the war in Iraq or anything, but it is there. We can talk about that in spoilers, but it is there, so it does make that political statement. But the thing that I came away from this movie the most from is the emotion of it all, and the way that it is very much kind of playing counter to the traditional war movie that's this big bombastic soldiers are gods and the kind of hoorah go military movies. Even the closest thing I can think of to this movie is Black Hawk Down, which is a similar movie in terms of depicting a real life event and being very realistic and a little bit hectic and chaotic. But this is a smaller scale of that with an added attention to detail with the emotions of the characters and the doubts of the characters and the experience that they are having in real time of their human interactions. And it's funny, we were talking about The Simpsons, and there's an episode early in the run of The Simpsons where it's a throwaway gag where Kent Brockman is on TV and he's saying I can't remember the exact quote, but let me actually look it up really quick. But basically it's describing maybe I'll try to play it. I don't know if I can. I'll just read the quote. It's fine. Just miles from your doorstep, hundreds of men are given weapons and trained to kill. The government calls it the army, but a more alarmist name would be the Killbot Factory. It's great. It's amazing. But that is kind of the point of the military, at least the way I understand it, which I have family who were in the military, and like both my parents were Marines and everything, and like they weren't like hard ass Marines or anything, but they like, it's just an idea that I grew up with. And here I am reviewing movies on a podcast. But like the idea of the military industrial complex being this thing where, you know, like drill instructors and basic training and all of this is molding these soldiers into being just like a complete unit, and like a complete unit, and being able to take directions and take orders without questioning, like having that like kind of very strict kind of follow through of like immediate reaction, sort of much like my Patreon, immediate reaction to things. So like, whereas like they have like firefights and everything overseas, like their immediate reaction is life or death. My immediate reaction to watching a movie is recording in my car with my wireless mic. So it's the same
thing. Those are the front lines, man. The front lines of film criticism.
Exactly. Patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. But what I'm getting at is like, it like by design, the military is meant to create and craft soldiers who operate as a complete unit and don't have like the kind of cynical or the common kind of thing is like losing their individuality in service of actually like being like just working together so seamlessly. And that's a very long-winded word salad way of saying that warfare shows what I presume to be a more realistic viewpoint of the human beings that are in these environments. Like there are moments in this movie that just really stuck with me, where these men who are like, I mean, they're at this point like Jesus Christ, like probably almost 20, yeah, Jesus, no, 10, 20, yeah, fuck, 20 years younger than me. Oh my God, that just, but like they have this, they're not infallible people that make the right decisions and are able to make quick decisions the entire time. They are fallible. They have their doubts and they have their concerns. They have their kind of like human aspects to it. So one of the things that I just loved about it was that without looking at the cast list, I cannot tell you a character's name, but I can tell you like how human they are based on the movie. And it's that I think is an interesting kind of trick that the movie plays. So yeah, I don't know
I think that's a great point, that it's fitting for them to lose their individuality because they are trying to operate as one unit, one organism. I think that's a great way of explaining the motivation behind the movie not really building backstories for each of the characters like a typical Hollywood war movie would.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're all distinct, but like you said, you know, you won't remember any of their names by any means.
Right.
But I think it's also fitting that the movie doesn't focus on their backstories or their lives back home, because when you're in the middle of conflict, I say this as if I know anything about it, but I imagine that when you're in the middle of combat, you know, you don't have time to think about your life back home. Like,
right.
Reality is the grenade going off right in front of you. Like, your only reality is the gunfire surrounding you. And I think this movie captures that perfectly. Like, it, like a nightmare, it's very self-contained. Like when you're watching the movie, you don't really think about life outside of Iraq. Like, the movie feels like nothing else exists outside of this Iraqi family's home and the, explosions enveloping it. If that makes sense. Like,
oh yeah.
Like, it's a terrifying movie. It plays out like a horror film. And I think you could argue that, maybe some people feel like it kind of loses a sense of humanity by focusing on, the mission rather than the men as individuals, but you still totally feel their fear and worry for them. And I think it's because of the immediacy. Like, the movie puts you right alongside them in that building as it's blowing up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like the use of tension is incredible. Like it is an incredible exercise in tension, especially with that kind of conceit of being based on memory. Like that is, like, it's funny that we don't know anything about these soldiers outside of their roles within the unit and their experience in this scenario. What I find so interesting about that is, like, the one thing that we get of them not, like, in to borrow a phrase I've seen in many a war movie, in the shit, like, the one scene of that is them watching a video at the beginning of the movie with whatever it was, like a jazzercise. I don't remember what it was. What was it that they were watching?
It's a music video for a song called Call on Me, which is like, I guess kind of like a dance song, like something you would hear at a rave or something. And I was reading about it, and that, like the rest of the movie, is based on a real memory that Ray Mendoza had of watching this music video with his fellow soldiers to kind of amp themselves up. And, they obviously didn't have streaming platforms back then, so they just kind of watched whatever they could, and this music video just happened to be on TV. And he said that scene in the movie really is meant to emphasize just how young these guys are. They're dancing to it like high school kids, and many of them probably were fresh out of high school.
Oh yeah.
And I was actually thinking about that as I was reviewing the movie, because that song kind of got stuck in my head after the screening. And I was thinking how odd it was that this song that I heard passively in high school was being used, miles away, many miles away in war-torn country by men just a few years older than me, being used as something to amp them up for unspeakable horrors. Just like the contrast of that, like realizing that I was in high school at the time and they weren't that much older, it kind of like resensitized me to just the awful nature of the fact that young men are used for war.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's really interesting. And here's the thing, like, something interesting about this movie is that I, like, coming out of the theater, I kept thinking about how it's similar to, like I said before, it's similar to oh my God, Black Hawk Down. And another one that it has an interesting kind of similarity to is a movie that I really didn't like in 2013, Lone Survivor, which is a shame. I should probably revisit that movie. But I say that because until this moment, for some reason, I didn't do my due diligence, but I didn't realize that this was an experience that Ray Mendoza had. Like, I didn't put together that there's because again, I don't know any of the characters' names, but like, I didn't put together that like the Ray in this movie is the Ray Mendoza that co-directed and co-wrote the movie. And it's really interesting to see my memory, if I can, my memory of a movie like Lone Survivor, which is, from my memory again, is that kind of just like weird, like not pro-military, but very much like, oh, like look at this one man badass who experienced this. And it's just an interesting contrast that Lone Survivor for me was this movie that just felt very like borderline gratuitous, that this guy, Marcus Luttrell, who wrote, like helped write the movie and even appears in the movie, went through this experience, or he wrote the book, obviously, but he was involved in the movie. He appeared in the movie in a scene, I believe. And he was very obviously close to the movie. The idea that experience of him losing like his entire team and being the only person like surrounded by a swarm of Taliban soldiers that are trying to kill him, and then making it into this like big kind of blockbustery like vehicle for Mark Wahlberg to again be Mark Wahlberg and just play a real life character and feel like a badass, and then talk about how he should have been on if he was on one of the planes on 9/11, it would have went down differently. Anyway, I'm getting away from that, but it's interesting to see the contrast with Warfare, where Warfare is again that much more measured, sort of like kind of more human, less flashy, although the visual effects and the set pieces in this movie are nothing to blink at, because it looks incredible, and there's some really heart-pounding sequences. But like the contrast between Lone Survivor and this, which Lone Survivor, Ray Mendoza was a technical advisor on, but here you have this like camaraderie among the characters that is also in league with their doubts and their fears and their kind of just complete crazy like inability to function almost in this experience. So I don't know, did that make any sense at all?
Oh yeah, definitely. And
nice.
I have actually already seen some people. I saw an NPR reporter kind of took Ray Mendoza to task on the movie's depiction of the soldiers occupying an Iraqi family's house. Mm-hmm. And the NPR reporter kind of suggested that the movie gives the Iraqi family like short shrift. And I guess you could argue, well, obviously you can effectively argue that, it is based on the memory of the soldiers. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that the movie wouldn't focus on that family as much. But also, I think in neither glorifying nor villainizing the soldiers for taking over that house, the movie kind of offers the best depiction, which is that they were just doing what they had to do at the time. And you see the soldiers kind of trapping the Iraqi family in a bedroom, and the family's obviously traumatized by what's going on. And the movie just presents that in a matter-of-fact way. Like, it doesn't show the soldiers yelling at them, or doesn't show any kind of like gratuitous abuse. It's just like, this is what happened. Like, this is what they had to do, and it's unfortunate, but that's the reality of war. And you do see that the soldiers are uncomfortable with it, and they see their doubts about what they're doing, and it's like the Iraqi family is sort of just one extra thing that they have to worry about. And that makes sense. Like, that's probably how they considered them in real life as well. So I don't even really know what I'm getting at here, but I guess it's that the movie does a good job of depicting, like, not taking a strong moral stance on the soldiers. Like, they're not depicted as the kind of badass you described in Lone Survivor. Like, they are just doing their best to survive, and it's all very raw and human, and they're vulnerable, and they're not afraid of showing their vulnerability. Like, even at one point, Charles Melton's character goes up to Will Poulter, who is kind of the team captain, and Will Poulter admits, like, I'm fucked up. I can't deal with anything right now. Like, I need you to take over. And I don't know. I think the movie's admirable for showing the soldiers in moments of weakness like that,
and hesitation too. Like, that's a great scene. Plus, there's a scene where, like, early on in the movie, before all the stuff kicks off and everything, where I think it's Cosmo Jarvis is, like, kind of relieved of he's taking a break from the sniper position, and someone takes his place. I can't remember who it was. Someone takes his place, and, like, there's a moment where, like, he has the shot to take out someone, and he hesitates. And it's just like this, just like calm hesitation, but it speaks volumes. And it's that kind of humanity in this movie that I've found really interesting and refreshing, because it's like we've said, it's not like a traditional war movie, and the fact that it's based on memory is a really interesting position to put it in. And to your point about it kind of not coming down one way politically, or the kind of criticisms of it not speaking to that, I agree completely that kind of memory thing is, like, it being from the perspective of the soldiers is very much dampening that sort of commentary that could be done there. But and maybe this is just me, but, like, my read of the movie is in the way that it doesn't really give much leeway or any kind of characterization to the inhabitants of that house. And even, like, the kind of brusque disregard to, like, who I presume were just, like, the translators that were part of the team. Like, that, I think, speaks to a bigger kind of subtext about, them not valuing, the people who live in the country that they've invaded, and working with that. And, like, the movie does get a little bit, we'll talk about it in spoilers kind of toward the end. There's something there that at one point I feel like is definitely, like, pointing out the kind of brashness of, and the audacity of, like, American war taking place in Iraq. Like, I think there is subtext there about criticizing the Iraq war, but also it does kind of give itself, like, kind of an out in a weird way that didn't really sit that well with me. But I do think that there is social commentary there. There is commentary, and that could just be me reading into it what I would like to read into it, because of where my personal thoughts lie as someone who has been on the front lines of podcasting for the last 12 years. But yeah, I don't know. I just kind of felt like that was maybe a light bit of commentary amidst all of the, like, humanizing of otherwise what could have been like caricatures of soldiers in the movie.
Yeah, and there is one guy who sort of approaches caricature, but it's for a good reason. Yeah, this soldier comes in with this kind of gung-ho, like go-go attitude, and he's, literally stepping over bodies and saying like, let's go, let's do this, like, we can do this, come on guys. And
stepping on wounded soldiers.
Right.
Yeah.
And you easily see through this attitude, and underneath you can tell that this guy's scared shitless.
Oh yeah.
Like, this is just his way of dealing with it. And it's also kind of a commentary on like war propaganda, like just he's kind of amping up his fellow soldiers in the way that like an army recruitment ad would.
Yes.
And the movie shows that like this is bullshit. Like there's no way to kind of amp yourself up for this. And I think it feels a little on the nose. I think I would argue that another example of like that kind of sense of encouragement in the midst of war would be when the guys are counting down how far away the rescue tanks are. They say like 3 minutes out, 2 minutes out, and you get that after multiple delays.
Yes.
And like kind of crazy delays. And you can see that by the time they're announcing these ETAs, like they're basically meaningless. Like this is all just false hope.
Yes.
And those moments just kind of punch me in the gut. Like when they're saying, we're minutes away from rescue, and you realize that they, that couldn't be further from the truth.
Oh, absolutely. Like, and given the kind of real-time aspect of the movie, or close to real-time, I believe, like you feel those 3 minutes, those 5 minutes, you feel that like it is a very nerve-wracking experience watching the movie, much less, being a part of this situation, I believe. But like in a, conventional movie that's not based on reality or memory or anything, like you hear like, oh, 3 minutes, okay, we can hold things down for 3 minutes. But like in this movie, it's like, oh, that is 180 seconds, and each second that's passing is a second that could be the death of everyone in this room. And like it just, you feel that palpable tension, that I think that it's one of the biggest feathers in the cap of this movie. Me saying it's a feather in the cap of the movie is why I was never in the military. But why I would never have survived in any kind of combat scenario. But it's a feather in the cap of the movie in that it's depicting a very realistic exploration of what it's like. I felt like I understood what it's like to be in, not necessarily in the position that these people were in, because I could never understand what that's like, but I can understand like a small portion of the emotion and the fear, the tension, because of the way this movie presented it and presented the soldiers at the core of the story, and their fallibility, their questioning their humanity, really. And I think that's a really good example of just really powerful storytelling in this movie.
Yeah, and that's a great point about the real-time aspect. Like, this movie definitely shows that a lot can happen in 3 minutes.
Yes, yes.
And I think that...
Yeah, oh, sorry. I was just going to say, much like this podcast, like, 3 minutes could be the difference between me rambling about something and being 4 minutes away from actually getting to the point of what I'm trying to say. So like, I feel like by extension, the listeners understand what it's like to be in this situation as they hear me ramble.
It's very close to war, really.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Sorry, what were you going to say before I interrupted you?
I think that's why I would say, I mean, I try not to suggest that movies have to be experienced a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
As someone who grew up with video and movies on TV, but I think this movie definitely benefits from being seen in a theater.
Yes.
There are some sequences where the sound design too is very effective. Mm-hmm. And even, the silence can be deafening. Mm-hmm. And even in the pre-combat sequences, like when they're just kind of sitting around, like mm-hmm. it's still very tense.
Yeah.
I wouldn't last 5 minutes in this entire mission.
Oh, no, not at all.
Not even just waiting around. There's so much dread and just a sense that they could be just obliterated any second.
Yeah. If I could further alienate any military-minded listeners or anything, I will say that the closest I've come to this kind of experience is working in a call center where I'd be sitting at my desk and the phone would not be ringing, and then suddenly the phone would ring and I would have to sprint into action and listen to people yell at me about life insurance. So all that's to say, I get it. I get it.
Yeah. You have call center shell shock.
Yes.
But, I'm curious because at the start of this, you said the movie didn't quite stay with you the way it did with me, but it seems like your enthusiasm has grown as we've talked. So I'm just curious, about some of the weak points that you felt were there.
Yes. So I do think we have a Freaky Friday situation in which my affection for the movie has changed as we've been talking about it. Much like your opinion kind of shifts when we talk about movies a little bit. So, but yeah, I have kind of grown more fond of the movie as we're talking it out and everything. But, I'll have to talk about some of the stuff in spoilers, but I think really what it comes down to is the ending just didn't really hit me with the way that I feel like it was intending to. But we can go into that in spoilers. But is there anything else we can talk about in non-spoilers before we jump over to spoilers?
I mean, right now, this is probably my favorite movie of the year. I mean, that's not really saying a whole lot, just, because we're not even halfway through the year yet. But
you haven't seen a Minecraft movie yet, have you?
I have not. Okay. So it's really not fair for me to call this my favorite before seeing that.
Sure.
But I'm not, I like war movies. It's not like my go-to genre. But I was very impressed with this. It, like I said, just when it ended, I was honestly kind of shocked by just how lean this movie is. It ends pretty abruptly, and I was I kind of wasn't ready for it. I feel like I could have watched even more, as nightmarish as the movie is. But yeah, I guess that's all I would say, non-spoiler wise.
Yeah, well said. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and go into spoilers. I ended up rating this on Letterboxd 3.5 stars. Sam, what did you rate it on Letterboxd?
I've given this my highest rating of the year so far, which is 4.5.
Very nice. Very nice. And of course, you can read Sam's full review on MidwestFilmJournal.com. And so we're going to go ahead and go into spoilers for Warfare. If you want to skip around, you feel free to check the show notes for timestamps, and also follow Sam at Sam Movie Man on Letterboxd. So I'm going to play a clip from the trailer. When we come back, we're going to be spoiling Warfare.
Oh, he's back. That's the fourth fucking time he's done that.
Is he peeking and probing?
Peeking with serious intent to probe.
Alpha 2, we might have guys starting to move on our position. Copy. We're getting a buildup of activity here, too.
Yeah, I definitely see weapons at this point.
Yeah, we have definite massing.
All right, so spoilers on for Warfare, and I forgot where I ended the clip from the trailer. So Sam, I want to get kicked off with the spoiler section with an exercise. This is not really going to pertain too much to the actual spoiler discussion, but I am looking at a 0.5-star review of a movie on Letterboxd. And given the conversation that we had and the discussion we had, or the word salad that I spewed out about Lone Survivor, I want to play a game and ask you what movie between Warfare and Lone Survivor is this review for. So I'm going to read from this review on Letterboxd. It says, a soulless, insidious piece of pseudo-realistic propaganda, a film that postures as an anti-war statement while reveling in the exact kind of mindless, fetishized destruction that makes war look like an adrenaline-fueled power fantasy rather than the devastating, soul-eroding atrocity that it actually is. It's laughable that this claims to be a brutally honest portrayal of the horrors of war, yet it is so utterly obsessed with aestheticizing that horror that it ultimately becomes complicit in the very glorification it pretends to reject. Don't even get me started on how tone-deaf this is by focusing exclusively on the soldier's experience and completely ignoring the wider consequences of war, the civilian impact, the political motivations, the psychological toll beyond the battlefield. This goes on for a long time. I'm not going to read any more. So the first edition of the new Obsessive Viewer podcast game, Warfare or Lone Survivor. What do you think this review was for?
I hope it's for Lone Survivor, which I haven't seen, but if that is for Warfare, they completely biffed it.
It is a 0.5-star review with 402 or 403 likes for Warfare.
That's depressing.
It is so, as I feel like I just had a frog in my throat. It's so weird, like how off the mark this is. So much so that I feel like this is, it's one of those reviews that I feel like, are you okay, Justin? Like the guy wrote, like, I feel like this is maybe about something else.
Well, it feels like he didn't see the movie.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Yeah. It's so weird. And that's also weird. Like one of his favorite films is I Saw the TV Glow. Which also really random aside. This is so dumb, but every time I think of the title, I Saw the TV Glow, which of course was my favorite movie of last year. I believe your favorite movie of last year too.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah. In the dumbest voice imaginable, I will get in my head and think like, oh, I saw the TV Glow, and this is so stupid. I say in my head, and sometimes out loud to Pizza, I say, I done seen that TV glowing. It's so dumb.
I love it.
Thank you. So this review is really weird, really off base, and like it seems, honestly, it reads like an Armand White review, like purposely missing the point in like wanting to be contrarian for a movie that doesn't even have like a strong response to it. And looking at the comments on it, like there's a lot of the review's owner has blocked the author of this comment. The review's owner has removed the author has removed this comment. Like,
well, glad he's open to discussion.
I agree.
So he's saying it fetishizes war. Does it fetishize war when you see a soldier's body blown in half and his guts falling out?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's, I don't understand I don't understand. I really like it says a war film bereft of commentary is at best a feckless exercise in cinematic vacuity and at worst a pernicious instrument of ideological conditioning.
Nice vocabulary.
I know, right? The username, by the way, is Captain Thesaurus. Not really.
Oh, you can tell he's. Oh, okay. Wow.
No. It's not. Yeah.
What a fucking asshole!
I know.
I was gonna try to like keep myself calm and like be civil about it, but like fuck that guy.
Yeah, and let's tone it down just a little bit, just because you already have your war going on with RogerEbert.com. Like, I don't want you to sink like this. There's a whole commentary to be made. Like, where you're busy with you and Midwest Film Journal are busy with RogerEbert.com, and now you're throwing Obsessive Viewer into this spat with Justin Wua. On Letterboxd.
No. I'll step off the ledge, but
okay.
He is just wrong.
Yeah, I will say that I have heard that this guy does have reviews of Mass Destruction. So I will probably need to go in and I don't. It's so dumb. I'm so sorry. I swear, I'm not like doing any. I'm not taking lightly like military and stuff, like anything. Like I'm just having some fun.
Of course.
Yeah. But this guy's review is garbage. I don't like it. I'm
guessing he probably also hasn't served in the military, which just kind of. I'm not saying you have to have served in the military, but like it makes his anger like. I don't know. His angry point of view just seems very like petty.
Yeah.
Virtue signaling.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I'll like, okay, gloves off. Here's the thing. No, this guy, I'm about to block him on it because looking at his most popular reviews does the thing that I personally just kind of despise with Letterboxd, the kind of shit posting reviews that get tons and tons of thing. Like, to his credit, that long diatribe about warfare is several paragraphs long, but his review for Oppenheimer, which he rated 5 stars, is watching this after I just watched Barbie. Call me Atomic Blonde. 26,085 likes.
That's not even particularly clever.
It's really, really not.
Like, I'm sure a lot of people made that same joke.
Yes, absolutely. But I don't think that he's going to lose sleep over me. Over me, Matt Zoller sightseeing him. If I were to borrow like your very aggressive verbiage.
No. I want to clarify again. I know you're just kidding. But like, Matt Zoller Sites had like a very eloquent argument against the Penguin Lessons. Like, I'm not arguing that.
Right.
Like, he's a great critic. I just thought I just had the opposite opinion that he did, and I kind of used it as like a framing device for my review. It wasn't anywhere nearly like on the same level as this guy, who's obviously just like lonely or something.
Yeah, it seems like the kind of review that comes out of someone who went into the movie with a preconceived idea of what it is and just will not part with that assumption or will not alter that opinion given what the movie is. And I think part of that, and we can actually go into spoilers for Warfare here, part of that is because like the movie doesn't really is so unconventional that it doesn't give you much of the normal like storytelling and narrative structure that you get from a movie. So maybe that's just like, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's also kind of gross to say that the movie's fetishizing war when it's co-written and directed by an actual veteran who was there. Who was there and was like clearly haunted by this incident. Like you're claiming that he's like reliving it as a way of like fetishizing it, which is just feels gross. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But upward and onward, I guess, or whatever. Spoilers for Warfare. Where do you want to start? What do you want to talk about in spoilers?
Let's talk about the ending that I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so there are a couple of things about the ending that that didn't really gel with me. I think that the kind of one of the final scenes of the movie proper is the family coming out from the house, and like just the kind of dipshit kind of reaction I have to it is like, well, that's breaking the format. No one's there to have a memory of them in there. But I think that that's where some of the social commentary rests, is that like we're left on this image of this family who just like this ordeal that is a traumatizing situation for the soldiers involved, and they're like they have their house and their homeland occupied by foreign soldiers who are commanding them and trying to calm them, but are like there are explosions and there's gunfights, there's a bunch of stuff, and within 90 minutes the soldiers are gone, and now this family has to pick up the pieces. The thing that kind of gets me, that feels like this is more, maybe it's more just in contrast to what I perceived the movie to be about at its core, or at least subtextually, is that like the insurgents or the bad guys, are they Taliban? Jesus Christ.
I think
Al-Qaeda, yeah. They are coming out, and like they're like, it kind of just has this view of community, like, you know, it kind of paints this image that like, oh, it leaves on this image of like, okay, well, because they're all Iraqi, they're all together, and like this family that's been occupied in their house and their house has been destroyed essentially, it's like, well, it's not so bad because, you know, they're hanging out with the people who tried to kill our heroes. Like that just kind of felt a little bit incongruous to what I thought the movie was up to that point. I could be wrong. Did you have any thoughts like that, or am I an idiot?
No, not at all. I think those are valid points. It does feel kind of tacked on because the movie is really meant as like kind of an artifact for this one particular soldier, Elliot Miller, who, because of a traumatic brain injury, couldn't remember the events that took place within this movie. And Ray Mendoza wanted to tell this story cinematically to give Elliot like kind of a recreation of these events that obviously changed his entire life. So to end on this note of the family walking out into like a war-torn Iraq, it kind of clashes with the purpose of the movie. Like, yeah, it feels like kind of a tacked on shot to convey like, I don't know, the wreckage that these soldiers left, without really considering how it impacted the country of Iraq. Like, yeah. And there's also a shot during the end credit sequence where you see these blurred out photos of the soldiers.
That was my other kind of criticism of it. I didn't understand. Like, here's the thing, and we can get to that here in a second. But like I, as much as I appreciate the overall experience and that whole concept of memory and depicting the memory and everything, like everything that you said about Ray Mendoza wanting to make a cinematic version of it for the benefit of Elliot, who had severe brain damage, who doesn't remember that like, I assume that that's in like the NPR interview that you listened to. Like, that's not in the movie. And like, I felt like there was something, like if I had that context, I think it would have been a little bit more enriching of a movie that I actually already really like. And then when you have like the end credits, when you have those images of like the blurred faces, like we were talking about it, like after the screening, like I couldn't make heads or tails of why that was, what the point of that was. Like, I didn't know if it was like, are those the people who died, or those the people who didn't give their consent to be shown in it? Like, I don't, like, it was a little bit confusing, and it kind of, it took me out of the movie a bit. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, I want to address that because the movie ends with a title card for Elliot.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it was effective in the sense that I was kind of jarred by it. Like, first of all, I was surprised the movie was even over.
Yeah.
Because it just kind of flies by. And then it made me, I thought it was kind of bold because it made me reconsider the entire movie and like think back to the moments with Elliot and try to view it as like sort of a memento for him. So I would argue that it works, but at the same time, I admit that it's a bit of a stretch because I'm sure a lot of viewers will think, well, who was Elliot?
Right.
I don't think it's obvious that he's like a main character. And in fact, the movie focuses a lot more on Joseph Quinn's injuries. You know, he has these awful leg wounds.
Yes.
And the idea of it being a rescue mission for both of them seems to be more of the focus. Like the ending sudden focus on Elliot, I admit, is a little jarring.
Yeah.
But then there's a blurred out photo of the Iraqi family. And I feel like that's probably simply to give them some consideration. But at the same time, it also feels kind of tacked on.
Yeah.
Like kind of as a means of like saving face and sort of trying to do the right thing. Like, it's admirable in that sense, but at the same time, it's like, feels like a too little too late.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely agree. I absolutely agree there. The other thing I kind of wanted to talk about with spoilers was two things. One was we referenced it in the non-spoiler review, but basically the whole the translators, the Iraqi forces that were with them, that they basically were like, okay, you know, you guys can go out first, and it was kind of like shown as like this, like they're like terrified. They're like, oh, we're gonna be the ones to get killed, and like that felt I appreciated that specifically because it reflected, for my taste, it reflected the position of the Americans, and it's part of that commentary about, you know, the bigger commentary about the Iraq War and about America's position in that war, and kind of this very not careless per se, but this kind of position of it where it's like, yeah, it's a subtle way to kind of showcase the lack of I don't want to say lack of humanity, but like just like the expendability that they had with the people that weren't technically part of their team, I guess. I don't know. Or the mistrust that they had. I don't know. How did you make what did you make of that?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think the movie overall sort of suggests that Iraqis were considered secondary in the midst of all the conflict. Like, I mean, I think you could, this is another talk for another time, but I think you could argue that America went into Iraq for very selfish reasons. And it was a very sort of America focused war.
Yeah.
Like almost kind of an act of revenge, but also greed. And the movie sort of shows that on a small degree and depicting the Iraqis as like kind of a secondary focus to the American soldiers. Like it seems like the mission was basically about protecting American soldiers first and foremost, and like that makes sense. But like if the Iraqis were such a secondary focus, it's like, well, why were we even there?
Right.
And I don't know, I think you could argue why were we even there about a lot of international conflicts, but I guess that's a long-winded way of saying I agree with you.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, the final thing I kind of want to talk about, because I don't, well, we're running a little bit low on time. But the final,
we can go over.
Okay.
I don't want to rush you.
Okay, nice. So frame 1, scene 1, frame 1. It's all black. There's title cards. The thing that I feel like is also a little, maybe I'm reaching here, but it also feels like a little bit of an embodiment of that kind of subtext about kind of just, an American invasion of somewhere. Like, it's kind of an interesting mirror to an extent, if you read it this way, to Civil War. Like, Civil War is like occupied America, like our homeland occupied by soldiers that are of the homeland, like ourselves, at war with ourselves. It's for those playing at home, that's the definition of a civil war. And here, this is a demonstration of like people, like Americans in someone else's homeland. But one of the big things that I never knew was like a thing that happened, or like a tactic that was used in this kind of warfare, was the show of force that they have, where they have the jets fly incredibly close to the buildings, presumably as a show of force to kind of scatter the combatants and kind of shake them a little bit. And like, this is, granted, like this is, I mean, it's a community community area, like a residential area. And just like the idea of these like earth soul shattering, just like kind of completely disorienting things, just was really an interesting part of the movie that I didn't understand was a part of the American military kind of occupation.
Yeah, that was interesting, and you get to see the show of force, and visually, like it's very well executed.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Again, like, I agree. This is like definitely a theater viewing. I would say, it's worth it for that. Yeah. Any other thoughts and spoilers for Warfare? I feel like there's not really much to really say else with spoilers. But is there anything that we've left untouched that you want to discuss about it?
I don't think so. I mean, I think people, if you're expecting sort of an acting showcase, I think you may be disappointed. I mean, all the performances are effective, but I wouldn't say any of them are like showy. You know, all the dialogue is very, you know, it's a lot of technical military jargon and you know, Will Poulter and Joseph Quinn and you know, Cosmo Jarvis, like these are big actors, but they don't really give like big performances.
Right. Which I think is part of, I don't want to say charm, but part of the appeal of the movie is that it is very much an ensemble for sure, but it's more about depicting the experience rather than having like showboaty performances, or like they're all very measured performances. And I think that that's an impressive feat in and of itself.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Agreed.
Yep. So I think that's about it for our review of Warfare. Once again, Sam rated it 4.5 stars on Letterboxd. You can follow him at Sam Movie Man, and I rated it 3.5 stars on Letterboxd. You can follow me at Obsessive Viewer. So yeah, let us know what you thought of Warfare when you see it. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and go into probably a brief non-spoiler review for The Luckiest Man in America. But before that, I do want to just take a quick moment to remind you that if you like the show, please take a moment to follow us on social media and subscribe to and rate the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, or whatever your preferred podcast app is. And you can also subscribe to the Obsessive Viewer Podcast YouTube channel, where I have some videos up there and video versions. Well, right now it's just audio versions with a video backdrop of the episodes that go up every Thursday. And if you're interested in starting a podcast of your own, you can go to Libsyn and use promo code OBSESSED when you sign up for a new account. You'll get up to 2 months free depending on when you sign up, and we'll get a commission on it as well. More details on that in the show notes of this episode. And now back to the show.
They tell me I view obsessively.
Keep going.
Stop! 16,000.
You know serious?
Pass, man. Mathematicians are giving me 6 to 1 odds.
What's wrong with this guy?
Keep going. He's gonna go. Stop! $24,000.
Again! We have a problem. Somebody didn't vet this guy. He's not playing the game right. We gotta scare him.
It'd be a real pity if he got held up here in L.A.
All right, and for the secondary review, we're going to be talking about The Luckiest Man in America, which premiered in theaters on April 4th. Of course, this is going to be a non-spoiler review, and I forgot to double-check with Sam to make sure we're good. Are you good for a secondary review?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Nice. Well, the premise, according to IMDb, is May 1984. An unemployed ice cream truck driver steps onto the game show Press Your Luck, harboring a secret, the key to endless money. But his winning streak is threatened when the bewildered executives uncover his real motivations. This movie was directed by Samir Oliveros, and the writers were Maggie Briggs and Samir Oliveros. The cast includes Paul Walter Hauser, Walton Goggins, Shamir Anderson, David Strathairn, Brian Garrity, Patty Harrison, and Maisie Williams. So we're going from a very high-octane, very fraught with tension movie to another high-octane, very fraught with tension movie. But instead of Iraq, we have Press Your Luck, a game show in the 80s. Sam, how did you feel about The Luckiest Man in America, and what were your expectations going in as well?
I knew very little about the true story it's based on. I think I may have seen like a YouTube, like little 2-minute documentary about it. But I was intrigued by the trailer because it sort of explores this game show scandal in the tone of a thriller. And I was reminded of the great movie Quiz Show. But I was curious how effective it would be as a thriller, because without giving too much away, the way that the main character, won so big on Press Your Luck is suspicious for reasons that ultimately don't seem like that big of a deal.
Right.
I think you could hear about the way he won and think like, well, okay, like, so what? But I think this movie does a great job of showing. It's surprising in the fact that it shows how the CBS producers acted in sketchy ways in response to the sketchy thing he was doing. And it kind of emerges as this cool exploration of the web of deceit that people can get themselves into for basically financial reasons and also reasons of maintaining power. You definitely see that in what happens between the CBS executives. And there's some backstage drama, and you find yourself kind of rooting for Paul Walter Hauser's character as the underdog in the midst of it all. And he is ultimately presented as like kind of the most innocent party in comparison to what the CBS executives do. And I thought that was really interesting. The movie has like kind of a surreal vibe. Like the game show set is kind of trippy and like a little bit menacing. The whammy character that contestants face every once in a while that takes points away from them kind of like drops in and out of the movie in sort of a nightmarish way and is kind of like oddly menacing. I thought that was interesting. I think that's also part of the movie's weakness. I think it kind of relies a little too much on its dreaminess in some aspects. Yeah. There's a sequence where it explores Paul Walter Hauser's his character, his motivations through kind of a dreamy way, and it just rang kind of false to me. But overall, I really enjoyed this movie.
Nice. Yeah, that kind of weird dreamlike thing that you referenced, I kind of had a not issue with it, but I was kind of like taken out by it a little bit. Just really quickly, I know that I have been derailing a lot of things here, but I do want to say that I didn't know that Patty Harrison was in this movie, and knowing her work from I Think You Should Leave, there's just a couple of things that I thought about throughout the whole movie. Basically, the first was I can't remember what I said in our chat, but something to the effect of like, can you like what Press Your Luck is like my corn, or the whammy is like my corn. The Press Your Luck is how I keep my house hot. Or something stupid. But the other big one was because of the I Think You Should Leave connection. Anytime there was like a whammy, I just said in my room, in my living room, and it made me happy that I didn't see it in the theater. Anytime the whammy came up, I was just like, that's a chunky.
Amazing.
Yeah. But I think that this movie was a lot better than I had kind of assumed it would be. We are in this interesting era of like dramatizations of real life events, especially with like TV related stuff. Like just last year, Anna Kendrick had her movie. Oh, I can't remember what it was called.
Woman of the Hour. And yeah, that's a kind of a very similar
story essentially. But here, I really appreciated the way that it is tailored as, or it's presented as, a thriller. And what I found so interesting, and also a little bit to the movie's detriment, is that once you kind of alluded to it, like once you get the kind of clearer picture of what Paul Walter Hauser's character is up to, like the movie wisely shifts it away from like the intrigue of that character into this like backroom dealings, kind of power struggle behind the scenes. In like the actual thriller aspect, the actual tension shifts from like is Paul Walter Hauser's character, is he going to get away with this? Is he going to be able to game the system and make like a ton of money and everything? And it shifts into, what are these executives going to do to save their jobs and save face? And it's funny because I was really compelled by that. I was really kind of captivated by that because of the like backstabbings that happen, and the just like very quiet ways that people were protecting themselves and going out of their bounds to do something that is ethically and morally wrong, just in this game of this game of wills with this guy who's just, racking up all this money. So I thought it was really interesting. But like the overall like point of his whole experience, I felt like by the end of the movie, it just didn't really, kind of similar to Warfare, it just didn't really gel with me. It didn't really land in a way that was kind of like, it didn't feel like the capper on this big tense ride that I had been on.
Yeah, and just the way that it kind of explains his whole behavior through basically a dream sequence. Mm-hmm. It just kind of lessened the impact of why his character was doing what he was doing, for me at least. Mm-hmm. But I definitely agree with you that the real drama lies in the backstage backstabbings. And David Strathairn is great. He becomes like kind of a Weasley character. Samir Anderson is great too. And you can, he sort of does some things out of desperation that creates a lot of tension. Walton Goggins, who's kind of hot right now, is the game show host, who's like kind of sleazy and it's funny. All of the people backstage seem a lot less sincere than Paul Walter Hauser's character does, even though he's presented as this kind of con man. Yeah, absolutely. And that, I think, is a really interesting way to go about doing this movie and making this movie. And I just want to highlight Walton Goggins. Like you mentioned, he's very hot right now. He was just on The White Lotus throughout the third season. I haven't watched it or anything, but I just want to give a shout out to Walton Goggins. I love that man so much. One of my all-time favorite shows is The Shield, which I've talked about it ad nauseum on the podcast and in my everyday life. I love that show so much. And Walton Goggins, like, that is a masterclass of just incredible acting throughout the entire run, and just incredibly layered characterization. And just like he
like that is just, it's such a, like, it makes me so happy to see him having such a big moment these last like few years or however long it's been that he's been like really sought after, because like, not to be like a hipster about it, but I was like, I was a fan of him when he was Shane Vendrell. So yeah, but shout out to Walton Goggins. You will never be the Matt Zoller sights of my heart.
Oh no.
Just kidding, Sam.
Of course. I agree. I had seen him in things before, but my first like big introduction to him was Vice Principals.
Oh yeah.
And I love that show. But I want to give a shout out to Paul Walter Hauser, who is just turning out to be a really unique actor, and making really cool, interesting choices of work.
Yes.
I think he's great in this.
Absolutely.
He's very likable in kind of a like squirmy, cringy way. Your heart kind of aches for the guy. But and he's given a lot of like showcase performances lately. Like this, I thought he was great in Richard Jewell.
Same. Oh yeah.
He was on that show Blackbird. So just good on him, and I look forward to seeing what he does in the future.
Oh my God, me too. So like with Paul Walter Hauser, I have so much admiration for him and the trajectory of his career, because like he's someone who I feel like he could have and should have in an alternate universe, could have and should have been just a character actor. But like the fact that he's had like standout, like leading man performances, like in Richard Jewell and in this, it makes my heart so happy, because I freaking love the guy, and he gives some really incredible performances, and it's really cool to see him get like these opportunities that he's been getting and just nailing recently.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. If you watch this movie for anything, I would say to watch it for him. Like he alone is worth watching this movie for.
Absolutely. Also worth mentioning, he was in one I Think You Should Leave sketch. And
it's a great one.
It's a great one. And it's also a great one because he gives it his all. Like he gives such a good performance in that sketch, and like it's amazing. It's amazing. It's like I love the guy. He's amazing. Is there anything else that we need to talk about with The Luckiest Man in America, or should we wind things down? Since I'm eating into your evening and
no worries.
Okay, good. Thank God. So scene 1, frame 1, we've got.
No, I think we did a good job of wrapping this one up, kind of neatly. It's a good one. I think it's in theaters now and maybe streaming soon.
Probably.
I don't know. But definitely check it out.
Yeah, totally agree. And I rated it on Letterboxd 3.5 stars. It is a movie that I could see myself revisiting just on the strength of the performances of Paul Walter Hauser, David Strathairn, Walton Goggins, and Samir Anderson for sure. What did you rate it on Letterboxd?
We're in agreement. I did 3.5 stars as well.
Very nice. Very nice. And once again, Sam has a review of The Luckiest Man in America on MidwestFilmJournal.com, which is currently at war with RogerEbert.com.
Not at all. Show which outlet you're aligned with by going to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and joining at any of the tier levels. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to forego potpourri because I don't really have anything, and this is running a little long anyway. But Sam, before we go, I just want to say thank you once again for joining me. Of course, you're on the hook for another 21 episodes this year, so we'll get the contract finalized. But if you could tell people where they can find you online once again and what you've got coming up in terms of film criticism once again. Okay, great. I just posted my review of Warfare today. You can find that and the rest of my work at MidwestFilmJournal.com. Or you can follow me on Letterboxd at Sam Movie Man.
Nice. Great. Well, thank you once again, Sam. And that's it for this week's episode of The Obsessive Viewer. As always, thank you so much for listening, and make sure to follow the show on social media and subscribe to the podcast on your preferred podcast app. Also, I'm going to take a break from this end thing because I did check. Weirdly enough, the Flix Brewhouse screening of Dazed and Confused is not on sale for $4.20 like the Shrek screenings are. The Shrek at Night screenings, baffling. But check that out. Links to the theaters are in the show notes of the episode, but also check out Obsessive Viewer Podcast's other shows, Tower Junkies, a Stephen King podcast hosted by Tiny and myself, and Anthology, the Twilight Zone and classic sci-fi podcast hosted by me. Next week on the show, I'm going to be reviewing either The Amateur or Drop. Not sure which will be the feature review, but the secondary review will be for Hell of a Summer. So check back in with that. Until then, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. And now, enjoy this short clip from a recent Patreon-exclusive episode. For the full episode and more Patreon-exclusive content, sign up at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Like, Christopher Landon just has this ability to do this really interesting, intricate, not necessarily intricate, but, well, a little bit intricate, play on, like, conventional thriller sort of horror elements. And a lot of that is, why is this person stopping? What the hell? So a lot of that is because he clearly knows the genre. He clearly knows what works and what is good enough to subvert expectations. And especially like this feels like, and this is going to sound reductive, it's going to sound negative, but this sounds like this movie feels like an interesting consolation prize to the Scream 7 that we'll never get from Christopher Landon. And let me explain. So, thank you for listening to the Obsessive Viewer podcast. This episode was produced and edited by me, Matt Hurt. If you have feedback, thoughts on our episodes, or just want to connect, you can email me at matt@obsessiveviewer.com. For more information on this show, including a full archive of our episodes and show notes, visit obsessiveviewer.com. And if you enjoyed the show, please give us a follow on social media and subscribe to us on your podcast app of choice so you never miss an episode. Also, consider rating and reviewing the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Audible to help increase our visibility and grow our community. If you want to support the show and get early access to new episodes, as well as a steady stream of exclusive episodes, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. For information on more podcasts presented by obsessiveviewer.com, visit obsessiveviewer.com/podcasts. Our theme song is A Little Mad Sometimes by As Good As It Gets. For more of their music, check them out on Spotify and at asgoodasitgetsmusic.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Get up to 2 months of free podcasting service with Libsyn. Check out the show notes for your promo code to get started podcasting today.